The Plaguelands are now full of the living. Silverpine is overrun with feral Worgen and Alliance patrols. Some Forsaken are too brain-rotted or stubborn to turn away from the old Sylvanas. And then there are the Scarlets. The living of Lordaeron still think it's their land and they'll join any radical group to get it back. Many problems. The reformed Desolate Council knows it's up to the job, and its first step is to sort out the Scarlets. This is the story of a nation's true founding. And for their sake, I hope they use today's sponsor. Magic Spoon. Right, cereal. It's often delicious, but I haven't had an option that's worked for me until now, because Magic Spoon brings that childlike nostalgia into a fun and delicious cereal that will actually help you meet your goals. And that's because each bowl has got 4 to 5 grams of net carbs per serving, while packing in 13 to 14 grams of protein and 0 sugar, which is incredible. Now, I've got a code for you. If you use Bellular at my link, you'll get $5 off. They literally make cereal as a thing actually compatible with my health goals. That's why I love them so much. Also, being on a higher protein diet, I just know it works better for me, so that they do that is awesome. Now, the variety packet's got frosted and fruity, also cocoa and peanut butter, and man, see the peanut butter? It is absolutely incredible. And even just as a quick gaming snack, it's such an appealing option. Plus, it's also gluten and grain-free. They use natural flavors. And if you're doing keto, they're actually compatible with that too. Of course, the less carbs, the merrier, which is great. Magic Spoon does exactly what I want. It tastes terrific. It's got all the macronutrients, great texture. I'm super impressed with their products. They're so confident they've got a 100% happiness guarantee. If you're not happy, you get all your money back, no questions asked. So click the link below or scan the QR code on the screen and use code Bellular for $5 off, or just go to magicspoon.com/Bellular, and of course you'll save $5 today. Thanks to Magic Spoon for supporting the channel and joining us. Give him a big welcome. With that said, let's roll. Shadowlands threw the Forsaken into an identity crisis. Sylvanas tore the mask off and they realized they were the ones who burnt Teldrassil to the ground. They were on the front lines of the Fourth War. They plagued their own city. Point the finger where you want, but those crimes have Forsaken hands all over them. They felt horror, grief, maybe even resentment when Sylvanas abandoned them. But it was not all lost. When the Veil of the Shadowlands were closed, there were those with the strength to forge a new future. Calia Menethil returned to Lordaeron with a message of healing, but she couldn't always be trusted by people there. She was an outsider. Commander Belmont, a veteran of the war, well, he knew the Forsaken were on the edge of extinction. Even Valinara, a Dark Ranger directly under Sylvanas' control, knew that Sylvanas' original endgame would have ended the Forsaken. Farinell and the Apothecary Society are trying to maintain what strength they had. And then there's Lillian Voss, the Forsaken we saw rise from a half-mad corpse to a Scarlet Slayer. They came together in the Shadowlands' as epilogue, and they reformed the Desolate Council. Just before the Fourth War, elements of the old Desolate Council tried to see themselves as the link between the living and the dead. They organized reunions between families that had not seen each other since the Third War. But Sylvanas, thinking it was a trap, or just being so spiteful that she couldn't let her arrows go blunt with sympathy for the living, killed the Forsaken who supported the Council. And that also was the day she killed Calia Menethil. But the Council is reformed, and they have a huge task ahead of them, building a future for the Forsaken. The first step was clearing plague from the Undercity. After a trip to Maldraxxus, the knowledge to amalgamate the plague and to kill it was found, and with that the Undercity now is mostly cleansed, and once again the core of the Forsaken. But problems have been mounting since then, and one of them has just reared its ugly head. It's the Scarlet Crusade. What's worse, they've captured and fortified Fenris Isle and laid claim to the Silver Pine Forest. It all starts with Lillian Voss bringing word of a crisis back home in Lordaeron. We meet Commander Belmont as he is organizing the Deathstalkers on the walls of the Undercity. Looking over Lordemere Lake, it all looks peaceful, but Belmont tells us Fenris Isle has been taken by the Scarlets. But the Scarlets are long dead, right? Well, not really, because back during the Fourth War, all of this Scarlet Crusade propaganda started showing up in Tirisfal. So it seems that message actually did get out, and that the living of Lordaeron once again are flocking to the Scarlet Banner. What's the deal here? Well, Belmont tells us they've been defeated many times in the Plaguelands, in Northrend. Some of them are joining less fanatical orders, but It seems like there's always some old leader or new opportunist ready to take the accursed banner. This time the opportunist is Commander Forsyth, backed up by his own Inquisitor Fairbell and Huntsman Scarborough. The Undercity is safe for now, but the Forsaken now find themselves as a dwindling race. They cannot waste regiments clearing that island out, so instead they have to be smart. They cannot waste a single cursed soul, but they have us. We get to the Sepulchre in Silverpine, where Apothecary Farinell tells us the Desolate Council have in fact authorized every trick in the book. Methods that even go as far as using the original plague that destroyed Lordaeron. So we do some old school hand-ins, like killing wildlife or plagued flesh and picking boomweed. And it's a great callback if you remember Gordo the Abomination, who was picking gloomweed back in Tirisfal. Then we picked up some doomweed, and that actually ended up in Sylvanas' new plague, which of course we saw during the Fourth War. Well, boomweed is explosive, and with that the plan comes together. Mix plague and explosives. First things first. The living have put propaganda all over Silverpine, literal notices to the Forsaken that this is their land. We take them down, but the word is out and the living of Silverpine are signing up to the crusade in droves. Now it's on to Operation Death to the Living. First, disrupt the offensives, then send in the full might of the Forsaken to wipe them out. The first part is our task, but we need to get on the island. Luckily, we find some very helpful Scarlets training in the middle of nowhere, and their lieutenant's uniform provides us the perfect disguise. We can't just fly in there in our insane mounts, right? No, so we take the boat over. Once we're on the island, no one suspects a thing. And that is when the chaos sets in. First, we kill 6 Scarlet Archmagi, those who are smart enough to see through our disguise. Farinell brewed the plague and the boomweed into explosive barrels, which we then plant throughout the keep. They go off and chaos erupts. The Archmagi are dead, the wall's cannons are silenced. With one word to Bellular, the full might of the Forsaken is unleashed from the Sepulchre. We kill every Scarlet with a beating heart, cutting through the island's defenders to the very last. Finally, we come face to face with Commander Forsyth, who, in the end, was never a real threat. He was just another fool putting on the Scarlet Tabard, so he dies just as easily as the rest. Sylvanas or no, this whole thing is old school Forsaken brutality. I'd been worried that the devs were going a bit soft. This shows they can still make content that has teeth. Some metal shit where fools die. Back in the Undercity, the Desolate Council meets, and it really seems like their old rivalries are gone. Suppose nothing like the Scarlet Crusade to unite them. They talk, though, about determination and hope, that together the Forsaken will endure. But those players who were loyal to Sylvanas during the Fourth War get one more quest. In the Long Hunt, a vision of Sylvanas appears, and she talks to the Loyalists from the Maw. Her work continues, and with each soul saved, she finds hers just feels a little bit more whole. Remember, her soul essentially got destroyed. And that's one of the things that set her on her bizarre path, with her soul only being reformed as punishment. As punishment from Zovaal. Zovaal basically is like, you know what? Screw you, I don't need you anyway. I got you to do all of these horrible things, and now I'm going to make your soul be whole just so that you can appreciate how much of a horrible monster you've been. That's her punishment, and that's why she's now doing her penance. It's quite clear then that she has had time to think and that she does regret many of her actions. I'm sure many of us do disagree with those actions as well, because yes, Sylvanas led Warcraft to a strange place. But the one thing that she says she does not regret about her time is that she, along the way, helped the Forsaken find a place in a world that shunned them. Even though she's no longer the Banshee Queen, she says she will always stand with the Forsaken, and maybe one day she hopes she can walk amongst them again. And this feels like the true end to Sylvanas' arc through the Shadowlands. Remember, like, whole Shattered Soul situation, right? That kind of makes sense of her slow radicalization, right? And with this, she properly recognizes the leadership of the Desolate Council, and suddenly, right, the whole idea of a loyalist just doesn't mean anything anymore. You see, back in Battle for Azeroth, we all wondered what her motivations were. That was the whole community meme, like, oh, just what will she do next? What does she really mean? Can I please understand where this story's going? We didn't like that answer, did we? But there was this whole time, right, where, the Forsaken war effort could have been about the Forsaken. That Sylvanas not only wanted to protect them from a world that shunned them, but also wanted to put them right at the top, in charge of their own true empire, with their own destiny. The deals with Helya and Ayr's Soul Cage, those were considered part of her grand plan to raise up more Forsaken, right? Bind Ayr and the Valkyr, and then use them to raise up more Forsaken, so that they are a people who, for lack of a better word, can, get more of their number because, their stuff doesn't work anymore. And whenever Gen destroyed the Soul Cage in Legion, he thought that he was getting vengeance for the death of his son by robbing the Forsaken of that future, right? He thought that without it, well, they can't reproduce, they're gone. But no. We then find out that Sylvanas was to bind Ayr and to deliver her Valkyr and stuff to the jailer. It had nothing to do with the future of the Forsaken. In fact, any notion that Sylvanas cared about the Forsaken was rather thrown out the window when she called them nothing and then blasted off Team Rocket style into the Shadowlands. But that wasn't just ignored in the heritage chain. After defeating the Scarlets once again, Sylvanas tells the Forsaken that they were more than arrows in her quiver. Right? She specifically calls that, that final line out. And then she basically tells us that Nathanos is somebody that she actually does care about, perhaps signifying that there was a little bit of her humanity still sort of in there, that he is in the maw somewhere, and that yes, in fact, she did really like him and that she wants to save his soul. So in the end, the Forsaken do get their Banshee Queen who cares about them. Sylvanas is, she's a mix of things as a character. She is one of the franchise's most well-known and at a point most liked characters. The writers at Blizzard had very different ideas of where she could and should go. That damaged her plot, it damaged her as a character, and now we're left with a character whose journey to extremism was internally explained away by wanting to help her people, a justification that slowly fell away as she essentially fell into the ruinous influence of, I guess, Zoval's apocalyptic cult. And it's a bizarre story, because we know Blizzard had different plans for her at different points in time, and we know that behind the scenes those plans changed. Now though, the best that they can do is re-establish the Forsaken as a people, and fix up Sylvanas, and then just put her in a box, to be taken out again once time has passed. So, where do the Forsaken stand now? To be honest with you, not much has changed. They are still in a real desperate situation. This may have been the most recent Scarlet resurgence, but it, trust me, will be far from the last, because there's another active group of Scarlets. More on that in a bit. It's clear, though, that the other threats aren't over. The Alliance still does control the majority of Lordaeron, right? That hems the Forsaken in to Tirisfal and parts of Silverpine. Then, Ivar Bloodfang and his pack have basically gone feral and taken over Shadowfang Keep. The Loyalist problem has been put to bed, but without a single figure like Sylvanas to unite them, unity still could be an issue. There's all this stuff going on that the Desolate Council needs to deal with, but the point is, and the thing that's changed the most is that it's not the Forsaken of the Banshee Queen against the world anymore. It's the Forsaken. In a way, they have become a fully fledged race because they are free now. They are no longer part of a cult of personality. If a nation only lasts as long as its dictator and then completely goes to shit and splinters off in a million different ways afterwards, can you truly call it a nation? Now the Forsaken are a true nation, beyond just a cult of personality. They're a race with ambitions, determination, and cunning. This really is their rise to being a true nation. And as for the Scarlets, yes, Commander Forsyth and his cronies are dead, but the Heritage Quest made one thing very clear. Silverpine and Tirisfal still have living, eking out an existence. The survivors from the Third War are returning. All that propaganda that we found in Battle for Azeroth about there being a secret Menethil heir in hiding, that has actually not came to anything yet. This is not the end of the Scarlet Crusade. This was proof that there are humans in Lordaeron, and that many of them are willing to join anything with the name Scarlet on it. And the Scarlet Crusade is not nearly done. In fact, it was recently made the case that there is another large and very active group of the Scarlet Crusade that are not on Lordaeron, that have nothing to do with Commander Forsyth. And I have to imagine they will be coming soon, as will our future video on the return of the Scarlets. And there you have it. This was a pretty damn fun video to put together, and if you would like to have your appetite just whetted a little bit as to what the future could hold for a group like the Forsaken, you've got to check out the video that I posted on the revamp. Because this isn't just some bullshit speculation. This is directly from the game director. Check it out. I'll see you next time.